Crazy sex stories, extortion, bribery, bank robbery, some of the most incredibly unbelievable things that happen in American bedrooms. You're going to learn about it today on this episode of 1 Degree of Scandalous with Kato Kalin. And I'm Tom Zetter. Welcome to the show, everybody. I did not overdo it. Now, we haven't interviewed him yet, but I've talked to him. I know our guest today. This is going to be incredible. It's the head of the FBI Polygraph Division for many, many years. So this guy's heard it all. He's seen it all. And he's going to be sharing some unbelievable stories on this episode. Scandalous stuff, Kato. I bet it makes your hair stand up on end.
It is. Look at it. Right now it's standing up. Wire me up. I want to get a polygraph right now.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had one? Did you have to take a polygraph during the OJ saga?
I did not. I did not have
But
to
then again, what the hell did you do? You weren't guilty of anything. You weren't committing a crime, so why would you?
Nope. I just didn't even see what the machine... The machine scares me looking at it. It looks like, it's like you're electrocuted. I don't know. Maybe it's that old machines. I can't wait to find out how to take a polygraph.
You know, we'll get into that with him too, because has anyone ever beaten it? Is there a way where it's actually said you're guilty and you're not? Right? That would be the scariest
Obviously,
thing.
Tom has never seen Meet the Fockers. You can beat it. Kidding? Ben Stiller beat it.
He didn't beat it in the show, did he?
I thought so.
Those wires were going crazy, man.
I watched the first one. The other two, I just...
No. The original is one of the best ever.
Yeah.
Meet the Parents, that's such a great movie. Such a great movie. How's your stock portfolio? Good to quite good. Remember when Owen Wilson, the ex...
Yeah.
I mean, could there be a worse scenario for a guy where he shows up to his fiance and they go to the ex-boyfriend's house, right? Who's like this stockbroker that's making millions and millions. And he's got pictures of her all over the place, and he's just like, oh, what a tomcat, right? and she describes him, or she describes the relationship. Oh, it's just this sexual thing. I mean, really, just what you want to hear.
You're gonna after you watch our show, you can re-rent that one too.
Yeah, well, to me that feels like Thanksgiving. Meet the Parents. I love that movie. By the way, it's Thanksgiving week. Happy pre-Thanksgiving, everybody. This is a great show to watch on Thanksgiving, in between football and food and look, right. Everybody's got to escape their family a little bit on Thanksgiving, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing.
Escape the family? No, you're with family.
You're with them, but there's a few of them you have to escape from.
It'll be great.
Right? Thank God there's 3 football games. We're going to a hotel. No cooking this year.
Where are you going to go?
Charanea, which is for the meal. We're not staying there, but I mean, the amazing Thanksgiving. But when you don't have to cook when you don't have to cook it, which takes a day and a half, when you don't have to clean it all up, that's nice,
we're
right?
We're going to a restaurant too.
You just focus on watching football.
I just want my turkey and my cranberry.
By the way, Kato, how are you going to be able to enjoy Thanksgiving when the Packers are playing? They're playing Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. It's the first game of the day.
In LA, it's 9:30 a.m. kickoff, so nothing will happen yet. So if you mean if it's going to ruin my meal?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
I think I have a 7:30 p.m. meal.
Okay.
So I'll be over the loss by then, I hope.
So what will the difference in the day be for you? If they lose, does it ruan your day, or can you get past? Can you grow up and just get past it?
Yeah,
they're not going to the playoffs.
I've accepted. Well, I saw yesterday after they beat the Chargers. I saw that Packers had said in the hunt. It gives you a little hope.
Yeah, it does.
It gives you a little hope. It's like we're in the hunt.
I grew up in Minnesota, and you know what? I stopped investing any emotion into that team because they break your heart all the time. But I love the coach, Kevin O'Connell. I love him. I mean. I like him a lot as a coach.
Well, normally it affects me this year because the Lions are in first place and they're going to destroy the Packers. So that affects me. But my dinner is not till 7:30 p.m. I'll be over the Packer loss by then. I'll be over the loss. I'll get over it, and I'll be waiting for Thanksgiving. But it's an early kickoff at 9:30 a.m.
Right.
I think, I just real quickly, I remember one thing about Thanksgiving that I'm sure it's the same for you. It's the Wednesday that's better than the Thanksgiving because the Wednesday, everybody goes out and party. I remember everybody in college would come back. I'm from Milwaukee. Everybody would go to the same bar, and it was such a reunion. The best memories are the Wednesday before Thanksgiving for me.
It's the biggest night, right, at the bars.
And I got friends that came to town this year, and we're all going out. Well, all this entire week will be a party.
Yeah, I love it too.
That's Thanksgiving to me.
And Thanksgiving is just so stress-free, and it's fun, and the food, and just football and everything. You know, I know that you sometimes think that NFL games are rigged, right, with the referees?
100%.
If I put a lie detector on you, would you say yes, they are rigged and believe it?
Rigged. And you know what, Tom? I was on a Twitter the other day, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and they have an old tape from when Pat Sajak from the Wheel of Fortune had a talk show, and he's interviewing someone from the FBI, and he gives all the examples of why NFL is fixed.
Really?
Back then, of how it was fixed, and it makes complete sense that yes, I believe.
See, I don't buy into that. I don't think...
I don't know how you cannot. I just, you've got to see the tape of this. You'll change your mind completely.
It's interesting. I want to see that because I don't believe that in the spur of the moment you can make those types of decisions that, change the outcomes. But I do believe they screw up a lot of plays. Yeah. Now, you've been a passionate Packer fan your whole life. Yeah. I grew up a Minnesota Viking fan living there, but they've disappointed me so many times over the years. I try not to, invest any emotion into it because it's never worth it, right? But I'm back in. I was back in because I really like the coach, Kevin O'Connell. Yep. I think he's the best coach in the NFL. I think he's just fantastic. So I'm back in. I had my Viking hat on last night. I'm watching them play the Denver Broncos, and I think they're going to win. And then it just starts off with the most crappy call ever, that total cheap shot, headshot from the Bronco defender who's already been suspended. And he goes after Josh Dobbs, causes a fumble. It was such a how do you screw that up? How do you not go to the Sky or go to the replay? Go to New York and say... boot his ass out of there. Cheap shot.
I was rooting for Denver. Sorry.
Did you? Oh, you need the Vikings to lose.
Packers are in the hunt.
All right. Hey, one more thing before we get into our interview with Kendall Schull. There's just so much Kelsey. We talk about this. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Travis Kelsey is more famous worldwide than Patrick Mahomes?
Well, it's a two-part question. Patrick Mahomes is more famous in the sports world with guys. Travis Kelsey got much more popular with pop culture people. So yeah, Travis Kelsey is now more popular, and I mute commercials when I watch games now. I can't take it any more commercials.
I like the one with Mahomes and Otto. I like that one.
I can't stand him.
Okay,
I'm done with Kelsey.
Kato, I wonder if he's. Think about this. He had about 200,000 Instagram followers a year ago. Now he's got over 5 million. 5 million. Patrick Mahomes has 5.6 million, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any regret to this. I wonder if our host or our guest today hooked up a lie detector test to Travis Kelsey and said, "Are you really in love with Taylor Swift? Do you love her, or are you using this relationship, leveraging it in some way?" What do you think the answer would be? You think Kelsey would be screaming or squirming? And
he loves her.
Do you think it's love?
Yeah, he loves her. He's at that stage now. His career he's got 2 more years left, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's going to break into that, and he's doing all this. He's already set the stone to get a TV show of some sort.
Well,
and he's got a podcast with his brother.
He's talented. I think he's really a talented guy on camera. He had that dating show a few years ago. I thought he was really good in that. But man, you talk about be careful what you wish for, because he is going to live in a glass house the rest of his life now.
Yeah.
Marry or having a relationship with Taylor.
I don't.
Okay, sorry.
I don't even follow.
All right. Okay.
I'm more worried about us and our show.
Yes. And I think today's guest is going to be something that everybody's going to enjoy. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay.
Pass the cranberry sauce.
Quick little break, and we're back with the former head of the Polygraph Division for the FBI, Kendall Schull. All right, Kato. I hope you brought a rag in case you start sweating, because we have the head of the Polygraph Division for the FBI, the guy who ran it for many, many years, the only person to have a master's degree in polygraph examinations. He is the OG. He is the king of this. But I want to make sure that you're ready, because I may have to ask him a couple questions about you. You ready to bring in our guest?
Do I have to be sworn in?
Maybe. Kendall Schull, synonymous with polygraphs. And Kendall, congratulations on a phenomenal career, #1. It's an honor to have you on the show joining us today to talk about liars and cheats and polygraphs and, those crazy lines that go up and down and let you know if you're telling the truth or not.
Kind of looks like Robert De Niro in Meet the Fockers. I know he's got that going on there. Something about Kendall, he's got that serious look. It's like
Kendall, you've got a great poker face, man. I would not want to be in the same room with you if it wasn't doing something like this.
Kendall, can you just one time say I'm all in? I'm going to fold my hand.
2 of them are the truth. 1 is a lie. Okay? And you have to look at Kato's face and see if he squirms when I say which one is the lie. Are you ready?
Yeah.
#1.
I don't want to do this show if he's going to lie to me.
There's my face.
#1. Here we go. Kato Kalin once had a mannequin named Bonnie naked, by the way, that he would have in the front seat of his car and use it to drive in the express lanes on the 405 about 30 years ago when he first entered public consciousness in the news all around the world. That's #1. #2, The Kardashian girls, when they were really young, used to run into Kato's bedroom in the morning and jump on his bed every day before school. Number 3, Kato was an alternate on the 1992 U.S. Olympic team as a marathon runner. Which one of those, looking at Kato's face, is a lie?
Why don't you talk about those 3 things, Kato? Tell me again. Tell me just a little bit about all 3 of those things. Give me some examples of what's going on.
All right, I'll go from the bottom up first. I have done a few marathons, and I ran every day in the 90s. Now I don't, but I do swim. I used to live in a house on Gretna Green where Nicole lived, and she had kids, Justin and Sydney, the same age at that time of the Kardashian sisters. And the first one was...
the mannequin.
Mannequin in my old Nissan 300 ZX. I had a mannequin that I could use the carpool lane, so I would never get pulled over. And if you've been in LA, you've seen traffic.
What do you think,
bad.
Kendall? He's lying about one of these. Which one is it?
Well, trying to think here. I don't know. I see some of these expressions, but I don't think he ran marathons, actually.
Boom, you got it. He nailed it. Hey, by the way, those other 2 things sound so ridiculous they could be lies, but the truth is stranger than fiction when it comes to Kato Kaelin.
But I did marathons, but I didn't do the Olympic.
So he wasn't an alternate. Not an alternate.
Run like a mad.
Right.
Good job. All right, you passed the test. You passed it, Kendall.
I could see his face just by the way he was trying to describe that, how short it was, and he started there first too. That's a sign. So.
Well, hey, if you're listening to this, on Apple or Spotify or whatever, make sure you watch this on YouTube as well, because you got to see Kendall in action here, and it's so much better when you watch it on YouTube anyway. By the way, subscribe to the channel when there. Hit us with a like. And watch the old episodes too. But hey, Kendall, it really is an honor to have you on the show today. And your career speaks for itself. You ran the Polygraph Division for the FBI. Kato, that is a credential and a half right there.
I was going to ask. Okay, go ahead with the credits, because I was going to ask a question after these credits.
Okay, and then what I can't wait to talk about is your consulting service in Knoxville, Tennessee, where you live. My goodness. The cases that you get involved with, Kendall, you and I have talked about this a little bit. We're going to get into it on this show. But that's where the craziness is. Forget about interrogating terrorists and spies and things like that. That's where the crazy stories are when you're dealing with marriages and divorces and the crazy nonsense that happens sexually in people's homes. So
yeah, I was going to ask, do you charge $100 a lie? How do you rate the service? How do you do it?
No, it's the same price no matter how many lies you tell.
Kendall, let's just start with the FBI career, and it speaks for itself. Multiple decades of running the Polygraph Division at the FBI. That is the ultimate responsibility. That means whenever any other division of the government had somebody that they had to get the truth out of, whether it's employees, maybe embezzling funds, maybe doctoring expense recounts, who knows, right? What were the types of polygraphs that you had to administer when you were in the FBI? Because it's not always spies and terrorists and things like that. What was more the mundane part of the job?
Well, and keep in mind, I didn't work in the Polygraph Division my whole career. I started out working foreign counterintelligence, and then I was actually working in and out of undercover work for 10 years. And then it was decided I needed to do something a little different. So I went to polygraph school, went to the federal polygraph school in Alabama, graduated from that, went back to Washington field office of the FBI, the field office, and conducted polygraph tests there as a regular agent polygraph examiner. Then I went back to the polygraph, the federal school, and was fortunate enough to complete a master's degree in polygraph. Came back to Washington field office, and then I went to headquarters as a supervisor first for a couple of years before I ended up taking over the unit for about 2 years before I retired. But, we did all kinds of tests. Of course, all applicants, everybody that applies to the FBI has to pass a polygraph test to get hired. We did all of our informants. We tested them, and then any criminal cases that we had in the field offices throughout the United States, if we had a good suspect of a case, but we didn't have the admission from them, then we'd
Sure.
ask them if they'd take a polygraph test. And if they did, then we'd test them. And if they failed, we would interrogate them and try to get a confession from them.
So you had to take a polygraph on yourself, correct, to get the job at the
I
FBI?
did not.
Because
When I
you
got
didn't.
on, polygraphs were not required.
And what are some of the tricks that someone can do that you are obviously you know they're doing a trick, or can you tell?
Wait, are
a
you
liar,
asking if you can beat it?
Yeah. People try to beat that's the big story, is how do you beat a polygraph? You obviously know how to beat a polygraph. I imagine if you took a polygraph, you could fool the machine because you know all the ins and outs of the machine. Am I right or wrong?
I think you're wrong, because I don't think I could beat the polygraph test. I mean, there have been known spies that have taken polygraph tests that have been trained to, quote, beat the test, and none of them have really been able to do that. Any good examiner is looking for those countermeasure attempts. And if you're trying to beat the test by some of the things that you do, I mean, you can go online and see some of these things, but they don't work. And they don't work because the examiner that's giving the test is looking for someone that is trying to practice those countermeasures. And if they are, then they know they're trying to beat the test.
So, Kato, what he's saying basically is the technology is damn near flawless. It's going to find out if you're lying. Now, Kendall, here's a question. Have you seen telltale signs that, you use the human element that you have, and it looks like the dude is lying or the woman is lying, but then the polygraph says that he's not? Do you have to extract all preconceived notions and anything, or is that part of your analysis as well? Is this dude sweating like crazy? He's freaking out. Or does the machine give you all the answers?
No, it's really observation and the technology of the polygraph. The thing is, you have to believe your charts. That's one thing that you learn very early on, that you may have somebody in your room, you may believe that they're telling you the truth, but if the polygraph charts indicate that they're lying, you got to believe the charts. You got to believe the technology. And I've been in situations where I was a brand new polygraph examiner, and I give this test, and they fail the test. I remember one specifically that came in. She could barely walk. She was on crutches. She had been injured in a altercation at a store that she worked at the airport, and they were concerned that she helped set up the whole scenario. So they wanted me to polygraph her on whether or not she took part in this, or if she was denying that she worked with other people to set up this robbery that took place. So she comes in, she takes the polygraph test, and she fails. And I mean, this girl could barely walk when she walked into my office. And she had bruises on her face, and it was horrible. I felt so sorry for her. And so I walked out of the room, and I went to the experienced examiner that was in the Washington field office at the time. I said, listen, this girl failed my test. I don't believe that she did this. He says, get your ass back in there and interrogate her. She's lying to you, and get the truth. I went back in and, went knee to knee and toe to toe with her.
Yeah.
She gets up and walks over to the other side of the room to make a phone call. Didn't take the crutches. She didn't need them. She had no injuries. And she finally confessed that she had committed the crime. So
Wow.
you got to believe the technology.
Do you think you could coach anybody to beat the polygraph machine? Case in point, say you got some wannabe felon out there that wants to rob a bank, or maybe do a smash and grab at a very high-end jewelry store. Wait, Kato, that's not illegal in LA. My bad. Scratch that one. Go back to the bank robbery scenario. Could you walk them through how to beat it if they got caught and busted? Could you help them if you were next to them or preparing them for a couple days? I'm just curious if it's even possible to do it.
No, I could not. Like I say, any good polygraph examiner is going to recognize any attempt to beat the polygraph test. And they're going to stop right then and just start interrogation, probably, because they know they're lying to them already.
Mm-hmm. Kendall and I met Kato through John Wilson, the man that I wrote the book with on the Varsity Blues recruiting
You're lying.
right? Who was telling the truth. And Kendall, talk about that a little bit. So, this thing's going to be big, the book that I did with John Wilson. Everybody knows the Varsity Blues recruiting scandal that swept up Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin, 30 parents, these coaches, Rick Singer, the mastermind of this whole thing. But, John Wilson was the linchpin for the feds. That's the reason they got all the cases to move to Boston, essentially, was because he was from Boston. So then the prosecutors could then move all the cases there and help their career, allegedly. But did you know John was telling the truth? Because he had been accused of 12 or 13 felonies by the feds. They came at him. He was facing 180 years in prison, potentially. Now, ultimately, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit a single crime. He was 100% innocent. What were your thoughts when he entered? Because he called you, said, I want to take a polygraph to prove that I'm innocent. What did you know about the case at the time, and what did you think when he came into your office?
I'm not on media. I don't read or listen to that a lot. When I got the phone call from an attorney in Nashville that asked me to do this test on John Wilson, I really had to research the Varsity Blues case to find out a little bit more about it, because I really was not that knowledgeable about it. And then he told me that he had this guy that was only one of two people that didn't plead guilty in this case. He's from Boston, and he says, I want you to polygraph him. So I said, okay. So he set it up. We met in Sevierville, and I tested John Wilson. It was funny because I thought I was just going to give him one test on one thing he wanted to prove that he had not done. And I soon realized that he wanted me to give him about 4 tests. Okay, that's fine. But it gave him those 4 tests, and he passed every single one of them. And I was shocked. And then we broke for just a little bit, give him a little break, come back. He goes, hey, I thought of 2 more things I want you to ask me.
That's rare, isn't it? You don't get a squirming guilty dude asking for additional tests too much, right? That had to tell you something.
And he didn't know he was passing the test either. I didn't tell him. He didn't know if he'd passed or failed, but he was so confident that he was passing. Go to lunch, he goes, all right, I've thought of 2 more things I want you to ask. We spent 2 days. I gave him 14 polygraph tests, and he passed every single one of them. I was absolutely convinced that this man was being truthful. He was honest about he did not.
I don't know if people get do-overs, because when I go to get a physical and they do my blood test, I'm automatically nervous when they wrap it around my arm to test my blood pressure, and they pump it up, and I always go, can I have another one, because I know I'm already nervous. Does that happen? I mean, when you hook someone up, they've got to. Just thinking about it, I get
freaked out.
Yeah, you get a little nervous, and I don't know if when you're hooked up, does it read your impulses? What exactly does the polygraph? What does it do?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that every single person just about that comes into my office that takes the polygraph says, hey, listen, I'm really worried about this because I'm nervous. Is that going to have any effect on the test? And my comment to them is always the same. The first person that comes in here and tells me they're not nervous and tells me that they're really looking forward to this, I'm going to tell them to leave because they're already lying to me. It doesn't happen. Everybody's nervous, but it has no effect because we get a baseline on the polygraph. We only record what's over and above that baseline. So nervous level has nothing to do with it. But the polygraph measures, we put 2 pneumographs, one across your chest, one across your stomach. They measure your respiration or your breathing. We put a blood pressure cuff on them. We don't measure blood pressure. We do blood volume and heart rate. And then we put 2 finger plates on your hand that measures galvanic skin response, GSR, or sweat gland activity. And we know that physiologically, when you tell a lie, there are changes in your body, these different reactions, and that's what we're looking for on the polygraph. But you're right, I have to stay completely objective. I mean, I've sat across the table for some people that I really don't care much about because I know some of the things that they've done. I've sat across the table from a lot of people that I know I can be friends with outside this office, but none of that matters. You leave it up to the technology.
Yep,
Right.
yep. It's those lines, man. They're going to tell you what's up.
With technology going on, the changes. I mean, I don't know what it's 2023, 2024 coming up. Is AI going to get involved with polygraph test?
It might. I know they're doing some. I know they're doing some research on that and all, but it's not yet.
Yeah. Kendall, did your kids get away with anything in your house?
Yeah.
I mean, breaking curfew? I mean, good luck. Good luck with that. And by the way, do you have daughters that are going to marry anybody or are they going to stay single the rest of their life?
I told you.
No boyfriend wants to get hooked up.
It's Meet the Fockers right here. I'm telling you. He's got it down.
Right. I mean, are you also the human lie detector?
I have threatened a few of the kids. Believe me. A funny story. I have two daughters that lived with me here in Knoxville, and I was doing a research project on thermal imaging. The idea was that your face cools in certain areas when you tell a lie. So we want to compare that with the polygraph. So I ran the polygraph. They did the thermal imaging. We were paying people $50 to come in and they'd go into a room with a table. There was cocaine, marijuana, and a handgun. You put one of those items in a bag. You walk into the room. Now the polygraph test questions were, regarding what you put in that bag, was it A? And then, you see if they're telling the truth or not. So there was a kid that my daughters had they camped out with. They spent the weekend with. And, he's a teenager. So I know what thoughts he probably had. So I asked him if he wanted to come in. He got the $50. Sure, I'll be there. He comes in. We got done. I told these guys, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to screw with this kid just a little bit. So they said, okay. So we're all done. I said, okay, Jacob, now I got one more question for you. Have you ever had any sexual thoughts about either one of my two daughters? And he jumped.
Oh, my God.
He jumped out
You're
of the
cruel.
chair trying to take everything off because he didn't want to me to see the reaction.
That's what I do.
He said, give me another $50. I'm going to answer any more questions.
Hey, can I have some of that cocaine? Can I have some of that? And by the way, hand me the gun, too. I think I need that right now.
It's pretty funny.
Well, you know what? I have a question, Kendall. When with how technology, how the big business is sometimes for corporations like IBM's or Apple to have corporate secrets stolen, and are they implementing that in their offices? That's big business. Is Boeing for someone to steal the secrets, being the Chinese or whoever, but it's big business to have a spy or someone corporate to steal, the latest in technology. Do they set those up for you too, or are they set up in the offices, or do you have to bring a machine in?
No, I mean, they're not going to test anybody unless they suspect them of doing something wrong, and then of course it has to be voluntary. Nobody can be made to take a polygraph test, but if they have a suspect they believe is doing something and they're working the case. They're going to work the case first. They're not just going to pull out the polygraph and say, hey, take a test. They're going to work the case and see if they can prove without the polygraph that they've committed the crime. And if they can't do that, then they'll give them a polygraph test. Or they'll give them a polygraph to see if they know everything he's holding back.
I'd always think that it has to do with ego. Because a person that's, Kendall saying you have to have, you've got to say you want to take the polygraph. Otherwise, you have to do it. I think most people say, even if they're guilty, they go, I want to beat this. I'm going to beat this.
Sure,
system.
that plays.
I'll take a polygraph. Sure, they'll say. So I think if they agree to it,
Kendall will humble them very quickly if they're like that.
Well, they want to, the shows get signs of guilt if they say, oh no, I'm not going to take the polygraph test too. So they want to take it to prove that that they didn't do it. They're just hoping that somehow they're going to beat the test.
Sure. I want to talk about a couple of your cases at the FBI before we get into the good stuff. The sex crazy scandal stuff with married couples. We'll get to that. But first of all, you had this guy in the CIA named Brian Kelly. This was a pretty big story years ago. And he was accused of being a mole for the KGB, which is kind of frowned upon in the CIA. They don't like that. It's called a double spy, right? Or whatever. This entered your atmosphere. And they brought him in to essentially slam dunk. They thought for sure they had the mole, right? What happened in that case with Brian Kelly?
Well, it was a little involved. Basically, they knew that he had access to 4 out of 5 major situations that had been compromised to the Russians. So they thought it was him. He, like you say, he was a CIA officer. And they were convinced that he was the spy. We knew he had a spy. They believed it was him. So, but they couldn't catch him. They knew there were dead drops going on. They knew that the Russians were getting this information, but they couldn't catch him. They had everything bugged: his house, his car, his telephone, and he wasn't doing anything to indicate that he was a spy. So they just figured that he was lying dormant for a while and he wasn't doing anything. So they decided the only way to really catch him is to give him access to such highly classified information that he would have no choice but to give it to the Russians because it would be worth so much money. So in order to get read into a case like that, you have to take a polygraph test. So they had, I don't know how big the team was that was going to have access, but of course Brian Kelly was one of the people read in. So everybody knew that you had to take a polygraph test. So they just came to me and said, "Hey, Ken, we want you to polygraph Brian Kelly about whether or not he's been in contact with the Foreign Intelligence Service. We know he's going to pass, or we know he's going to fail, but when it's all done, we want you to tell him that he passed. That way he won't have any suspicion of what's going on, and we'll get him into this material, and we'll catch him." So I test Brian Kelly, and he really does pass. And I come out and say, "Listen, you got the wrong guy. He did not do this. He passed my polygraph test." So they immediately started accusing me of not doing a proper polygraph test. Basically, he said, "Well, he must have used some kind of mental countermeasures or something to beat your test." I said, "No." And so they worked him some more, gave him access. He didn't contact anybody. They finally sent him home on administrative leave because they couldn't catch him, but they didn't want him working at the CIA anymore.
Could have ruined his career,
so
ruined
he
his
went
life.
home. It did, and then shortly after that, that was in '98 that I gave him this polygraph test, and in 1999, a year later, they confronted him. They knocked on his door and said, "Hey, listen, we know you're the spy." And he wouldn't admit to it, so they just figured, boy, this guy's really a sharp spy. He won't even admit to it when we tell him we know who he is. So they sent him home, and then they find out later that, guess what? It's not him. It's Robert Hansen. It was a guy that worked for the FBI, not the CIA. And so they had destroyed his life, destroyed his career. He ended up retiring. And I think it was several years later. I'm here in Knoxville, and I get a phone call, and it says, "Hey, Ken, this is Brian Kelly." I go, "Oh, my gosh." He says, "You're one of the only people that believe that I was not guilty." And I'm speaking at the first International Spy Conference in Raleigh. He says, "I want you to be my guest speaker." And he pulled me up out of the audience, and I told everybody how much I believe. So. And then he was writing a book. I met with him in D.C. He was going to send me the transcript, and he ended up dying of a heart attack. So the book never got read.
A spy conference. I mean, I'm just amazed that there's such a thing as a spy conference. It's like, where's it located? You figure it out. You're a spy. I think that,
you can't believe what anybody says about the spy conference.
Kendall, I think that story you just told, I think it was also made into a film, if I'm not mistaken, called Breach, and it was with Chris Cooper. And I don't know. I've seen it a while ago, but Breach is excellent. Are you mentioned in that film? Is there a guy playing you in that film?
No.
Because you play a big part, obviously, in it. Because
Robert Redford was booked. He couldn't do it.
Yeah. Kendall said, "Brad Pitt is playing me. Otherwise, no way you're having me in this."
Hey, Kendall, this seems like an obvious question. I don't know if it's true or not, but did you ever have to conduct polygraphs on terrorists? Would they bring you overseas, hook these guys up?
Well, we had informants, of course. We'd always test them to see if they. I tested somebody one time to determine if they'd been in contact with Osama bin Laden, and we had some other spies that took a polygraph test, but I can't say that I ever polygraphed a terrorist. No.
I want to get into the husband and wife, but I have one last question I want to ask you about this. With the serious, real serious. Have you ever been in a room giving a polygraph to someone that's possibly a killer, that's someone that just spooked you, that you're in a room with that person?
I've sat across the table with some really scary people, I will tell you. Really scary.
I mean, besides that guy, that kid that you gave you $50, scarier than that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's been some scary times. So these people have just committed horrible, horrible things, and it's uncomfortable sometimes. But you try to keep it as non-confrontational as possible, and I've done it.
Plus, you're in there with the. You're not in there with this. That you're in there with the team. Like you're always going to be safe, correct? There's someone that's just in case someone just goes crazy.
I'm here by myself. I get a test this afternoon. This person's coming in. I know they're probably crazy, but I'm still going to give them the polygraph test. But I'm going to record it, and if it'd probably be better that I have a witness while I'm doing that today. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a frightening thought to think that those scary people are in front of you. Okay, here's a question for you. What makes you elite? The wires, the machine does it. I would imagine it's the questioning and the pacing of the questioning and how you present them and how you follow up. Right, Kendall? Because you don't get to where you are as the head of the Polygraph Division for the FBI. That's the most elite job you can have in your industry. So what is it about you that sets you apart?
Well, I just think it's the training really that we all receive federally. The FBI, Secret Service, DEA, DIA, FBI, we all train at the same federal facility. And it is by far the best polygraph training anyone can get. You have to be in the federal program to even go into this and be trained. And I don't know if it's 14 weeks now or something, but it's a very, very elite program. And I don't know that I'm any better than anybody else, to be honest with you, because, there are certain things that you have to do to give a proper polygraph test. And as long as you adhere to those things, you've got to ask the right questions. You've got to use the correct spacing. You've got to be able to score the charge properly. You have to know, of course, how to operate the equipment. You have to know what you're looking for. And if you do all those things and you're highly trained in the government's polygraph program, you're going to be a good polygraph examiner as long as you can interrogate and interview somebody. I can teach either one of you to run a polygraph test. I mean, you came into my office, I tell you what to do, and you can run charts.
Kendall, I'm more interested in you teaching me how to beat one, to be honest with you.
I was going to say,
forget the administrator. I'll leave that to the pros. I want to beat it.
I would think, Kendall, also in your expertise, without even a polygraph machine, I bet you could sit in or actually watch videos of people in an interrogation room, and you can tell by how the detectives talk to them, and they would want your opinion of what do you think. I don't know if that's ever happened for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are signs, we look for body language. A lot of times there are certain things. Some people are excellent at it. Some better than others in detecting that body language. But there are certain things that you look for if you see them. You can't be assured that they're lying or telling you the truth, but you kind of have a good idea. But again, all that aside, you let the polygraph do its thing, and you believe your charts when you see them.
I was in a room like that there. I was moving a lot, though, but that's because I have a spastic colon. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
That's great. How do you not, Kendall? How do you not show any tells? Because you're looking at that machine, and when I see this, I've never administrated a polygraph, but that can't be good, right? So you have to really guard from having any reaction, I would imagine, right? Because they're reading you as you're reading them.
They don't see any of that. During the actual polygraph test, they're sitting in a chair facing away from you. They can't turn around and look at you. They can't see the charts on the screen. They have no idea what's going on. And you run one chart, you ask all the questions once, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. You might do it 3, 4, or even 5 times. And then you take all of that, it's mathematical, you give it scores, and that's how you determine if they're telling you the truth or not. But they don't get to see any of that. In the old instruments, and I've got one in my office, where the pen's actually right on the paper and it scratches a little bit. They can hear that noise and all. and it was a little bit different. But now, obviously, everything's computerized, so we don't have that.
Wow. And what's that, about an hour-long test?
It's probably a minimum of an hour and a half. I mean, I did 2 tests last week. Each of them were over 5.5 hours long.
Wow. And I suppose after like an hour, not even an hour, you get comfortable with it, a person sitting there. And sort of, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I can do this. The big first 10 minutes wears off, and you're kind of like, all right, I'm in my lying mode.
Well, Kendall, I mean, you had a great career. You had a great career, Kendall, finding out if informants and CIA moles are lying. But, man, the fireworks really started when you opened up your consulting business. And that's where the stories really get crazy. Don't use any names because I know you can't, but you've got to tell me the craziest story you've dealt, maybe in a divorce case, where you learned about infidelity, just crazy sexual content that maybe your head was spinning.
They really truly are. Hey, hang on 1 second. Melissa? Hello? Hey, can you give me some time? There's a conference room right down the hallway. Can you hang out there?
Out this hallway?
Down and to the left.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bring Melissa in.
Oh, I love this.
Bring
This is
Melissa-
real time,
bring
man.
Melissa
This is
in.
somebody that's going to get interrogated. She's going to get a lie detector here shortly, a polygraph. But anyway, this stuff's more important. I want to hear about the crazy sex. Melissa can wait.
So I have a big sign on my front door. Quiet, please. Polygraph in program. Do not enter. And I look up. I don't know how long she's been there, but she's been standing there.
She's a liar, too. I guarantee you. She's guilty.
That's so great. So,
Charge her double.
let's hear about this.
No,
husband and
let's
wife.
get back to the sex here. I want to hear about the crazy sex stories because I know you got them. And people will throw out any kind of money maybe to win a divorce case and to hide evidence. So what have you seen in your day?
Well, it's been real eye-opening. I'll be honest with you. I never got into polygraph in the Bureau of the FBI to think about a retirement. I really didn't. And when I did retire, I opened up a private investigative business, which I have now, security guard business, and, of course, polygraph. And then polygraph just took off. And so, a lot of really, really good work with attorneys and therapists for couples and all, but some of the cases, I'll give you one example. And this is why people like to play golf with me. Okay. I'm not a very good golfer, but they like to play golf with me because I tell stories. And so I get a call from this guy, and he's from another state. And he says on the phone, I want one of them there lie detectors. I said, okay. I said, well, who we testing? He says, well, let me tell you what happened today. He says, I went to work and my boss came to me and he says, you need to go home and take the rest of the day off. You've worked here for 3 years. You've never taken a day off. You need to go home. And as a matter of fact, take the rest of the week off too. He says, so I did. And he says, I went home. I drove up the driveway. I went to the master bedroom to change my clothes and the door's locked. He says, we never lock our master door. And he says, so I'm knocking at my wife saying, are you in there? Because I can hear something going on in the bedroom. I know she's in there, but she won't open the door. And so he says, I wait. He said it took her like 5 to 10 minutes to come to the door. She opens the door. Her hair's all messed up. Her makeup's smeared. He says, and I look in the door. He says, and who do you think I see? I said, I don't know who. He says, her 2 brothers pulling their pants up.
That's not a. That is a.
Sensory overload. Really? Oh, my God. Do you think the boss knew that was going on and he said, I want you to catch him?
No.
Holy crap.
So I said, what'd you do? And he says, I said, I don't remember what her name was. Are you having sex with your brothers? And she said, yeah. I said, well, what are you going to test her on? She's already admitted to it. And this is what he told me she said to him. It's only been going on for about 2 weeks. He said, if it's been 6 months or more, I'm out of there.
That's an open marriage.
God, that is one understanding
Hey,
guy. Let me say
Can
that.
I guess the state?
Kendall, do you understand what I do to get in trouble? I mean, a bite of a donut,
Tom,
and
Tom.
I'm in prison for a week.
Tom, the bigger
this woman's having sex with her brothers, and he didn't care.
I'll tell you what. That's a bad three. I had a threesome last week, Kendall, but I had 2 no-shows. But seriously, but seriously, Kendall, are they still together?
Oh God.
Yeah, I guess they are. Yeah, I was speaking to, I think it was a Kiwanis club, and I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I give on Polygraph, and I always ask if there's any questions. And I had told that story, and a lot of people had questions about stuff. But there was a guy in the back of the room, and he was having a hard time, but his arm was coming up. So I walked over. There's about 60 people there, I guess, and I said, "Sir, do you have a question?" And handed him the microphone. He goes, "I don't have a question. I've got a comment to make to you." I go, "Oh." Everybody was quiet in the whole room. And he says, "I just want you to know that I'm from that state where they were from." And he goes, "And in that state, it does make a difference how long it's been."
God.
What's the first initial of that state?
Could it be a K?
Let me guess. I was going to say, is it a K?
No comment.
Yeah.
Okay, let me regain myself here for a second. We just learned that this woman was having sex with her brothers, and her husband basically didn't care. Let's take it a step further. Have you seen anything crazier than that? Like this, dare I say, 4-legged situations. I mean, how nuts is it?
So this couple comes in. This is right after I retired. I got to Knoxville, and this guy called me up. He says, "Listen, you got to test my wife. I really need a polygraph test on her." I said, "Okay." So I met with him, and they'd only been married for I think 2 years. And he said, "I really need for you to test her whether she's had sex with anybody other than me since we've been married." I said, "Okay, that's not a problem." So he leaves. She comes in. I'm sitting down at the table with her. She's sitting across the other side of the table. And I said to her, I said, "Well, now you understand that this test is going to be regarding whether or not you've had sexual contact with anybody other than your husband since you've been married." Her head went right down on the table. And she just starts going, "Oh my gosh, oh no, oh my gosh." And she looks, I said, "What?" She goes, "Oh, this is horrible. This is really, really bad." And I said, "What?" And she says, "Well, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "When you say sex with anybody, do you mean with just people?"
Oh. Kendall.
And
Kendall. So when the test is over, I walk out. The guy says, "How'd she do? How'd she do?" I said, "And this is true story. I'm not making this up." I said, "Well, I got some good news and bad news. Good news is your wife has not had sex with any other man. The bad news is I'd get rid of that German Shepherd if I was you."
That's just what you need. The polygraph examiner who's a comedian. Now, talk about a pet lover, right? I mean, that's just maybe a little bit too far.
Yes.
Wow, Kendall, that is an amazing story.
Speak, sit, and stay.
Wow. Hey, okay, Kendall, I know you got someone in the waiting room waiting to get hooked up here. Let me ask you this. When you deal in divorces and situations like that where there could be infidelity and things get really ugly and there's a lot of money involved, right? These people have been married a long time. I would imagine they'll do anything to not have the results that maybe come from a polygraph. Have you seen that? Where do they try to pay you? Do they try to bribe you? Don't report the answers correctly.
I couldn't tell you. I sit here at my desk. I've got an FBI badge sitting over here. I've got a seal of the FBI standing over here. They all know my background when they come in. I've been offered a brand new Lamborghini. Hadn't even come in. The guy has it ordered if I would just say that he passed this test. A guy flew me to Geneva, Switzerland, paid for my trip. First class limousine met me when we got over there. Tested him the next day. He failed the test on whether or not he'd had sex with anybody other than his wife. And he basically told me that he'd give me more money than I'll ever expect to make in my retirement. And I walked out the door, had my hand on the doorknob, and I turned around one more time. And I said, just tell me how much money I'm turning down. He goes, I'll get $1 million to you in cash if you'll say I passed this test. Because it's going to cost me a lot more than that because he was a multi-gazillionaire.
Wow. I commend your ethics, Kendall. That is amazing. But I mean, come on, you ran the FBI Polygraph Division. Of course we knew the answer to that. That is unbelievable. Kato, I'm going to ask him one last question.
I'll take the million.
And then you can ask him one last question. We'll let him go. Kendall, would you have taken the million? I mean, that would have been tough.
Well, it depends on what the guy was. He was a nice guy, yeah.
Oh, Kendall, if you had the opportunity to administer a polygraph to anybody, maybe there's a criminal out there that says he's innocent when pretty much the whole world knows he isn't and guilty. Have you ever thought of that? Would you ever like to sit someone down, strap them up, and get the answers?
Well, unfortunately, I have done that. Some people that I've wanted to do, the test results have not always gone well for them, and therefore I can't reveal the results of the polygraph test. But, there have been a lot of cases. I've done a lot of cases for athletes, professional athletes that have been charged with doping, and I've been able to get them through a polygraph test because they're telling the truth. So I feel really good about that. But
that's good.
There are a lot of political figures that I have tested that I'm not able to share.
Sure, I got you. Hey, I'm going to tee this one up with both of you. Kendall, obviously, we're approaching the 30th anniversary of the O.J. Simpson saga. Kato Kalin in the middle of it, of course. Kato, do you think O.J. thought that he could pass a polygraph?
My opinion, I think so too. I think he did. I think he thought that he could beat anything, basically, beat a rap. And I think that he probably thought that, I can pass the polygraph, which I think he did take, and he failed, correct?
Yeah. Kendall, have you heard anything about OJ's polygraph? And how quick would you know that he wasn't telling the truth?
I mean, I heard, that's the reason I was waiting for that, because I know he did take a polygraph. So I think he took 3, as a matter of fact, and he failed all 3 of them.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, then, a guy came in here, and he claimed that he had had sex with Orson Welles, James Dean, Van Heflin, Elvis Presley, the Duke of Windsor, Charles Manson, and Steve McQueen. And I said, well, I can't test on all those. Let's pick one. So he decided he wanted to pick Elvis. And I said, if this guy passes this test, I'm going to get kicked out of the state of Tennessee. I can't.
Right.
But fortunately, he
the
failed.
king.
But he wanted to prove that he'd had sex with all these people.
What a vivid imagination.
And why would he want that anyway?
Wow.
That, I'll tell you what, that Liberace, I'm kidding.
He turned him down. He didn't have a shot with Liberace.
I kid. Total humor. I was going to ask it. My question was going to be: Are you married, man?
I am.
Have you ever tested your wife on anything that would bother you? And she has to say, obviously she has to agree to it. But have you ever said, "Will you take a polygraph for me?"
I have never.
Are you lying?
I have never.
Are you lying right now?
Never tested. I'd be too afraid she wouldn't pass. No, that's not true.
Well, Kendall, let me end with this. Kato and I are both married, and there might require a time where we may have to twist the truth a little bit just to get out of trouble. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Suggestions for Kato, myself, any man out there. I'm not talking about a major felony here. I'm just talking about avoiding trouble for a few hours. Any thoughts for us to, get away with something and not have some big tell where we're busted? How can we get away with a little lie, just a tiny one?
Well, I think it'd be best if you would just give me your wife's names and their phone numbers, and so you will know that at any time they suspect that you have done something, that they're going to ask you to take a polygraph test, and I'll do it free if you come to Knoxville. I'll test you free.
Well, you know what? I may be coming to Knoxville, and I'm going to contact you. If I come to Knoxville with the show, I'm gonna hook up with you. We'll go golfing or something. Deal?
Kendall, promise me you'll hook up Kato to the wires, though. Give him a little dolly detector.
Yeah,
Make him squirm a little bit.
We'll film it.
Wait, Tom, will you give me his wife's name and telephone number before he comes?
Yeah. Yes, I will. 100%. No, Kato gets in a lot more trouble than I do. I'm a good boy. I've been married 20 years. I know not to step across the line. Kato's still learning the ramifications.
I learned one thing. I'm not getting a German Shepherd. Well, it was a great
marriage advice. Kato Kalin, right there.
Yeah, we'll let you go back to Melissa now.
Yeah.
Waiting in the conference room. But thank you so much for your time, Kendall.
Kendall, it's a blast. Thank you.
Hey, good talking to you guys.
You can't make those stories up. You can't do any better than that, Kato. That was world-class storytelling by Kendall Shull.
I'm telling you, I'm going to get my master's degree in a lie detecting. I don't know what school do you go to for that, because I'm going to enroll. I never saw it as one of my electives.
Is your bedroom that crazy, exciting?
No. This is
wow.
He's a two-parter maybe.
No, without a doubt. Who would admit to any of that anyway? That's insane.
Great find. Great talking to that guy. I love it.
I mean, when you think how advanced we are as a country, and this kind of crap is still going on, apparently. You know what? I guess so. I mean, the head of the FBI Polygraph Department heard all the stories. That's incredible.
At least we have a great clip. I know which one clip you're going to use already on YouTube. I know how your mind works. I know what clip you're going to post.
All right. Well, we're taping this the week of Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We're very grateful for you guys watching. So spread the news on this show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Make sure you follow Kato and myself on social media. I'm at Tom Zenner. He's at Kato_Kalin. All right. The nonstop entertainment value on Kato's social media. We got social clips going out on this show all the time. So subscribe to our channel if you listen to this on audio, but go to YouTube if you're only listening to this, because you got to see Kendall, you got to see Kato, you got to see our reactions to Kendall's stories this week.
The show.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football. But my favorite part of Thanksgiving, mashed potatoes. Just give them to me all day long. Mashed potatoes, baby. Gravy. I love it.
Mine? Mm-hmm. I'm from Wisconsin. 80% of the cranberries come from Wisconsin. All over the world, they get it from Wisconsin cranberries.
Did not know that.
Yes, that's true.
You know what? I've never eaten a cranberry. Am I missing out?
That's my favorite meal is Thanksgiving. Turkey with the cranberry, real cranberry. It is. I'm actually excited for this. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to plug something we wish I could get a sponsor. Mendocino Farms has a sandwich only in November called the November to Remember. I've had 3 already. They are the best sandwiches I've ever had.
All right.
It's cranberry turkey.
There's one a mile away in El Segundo from where I live. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab it today. I'm going to get it today.
This is great.
Okay, I'll be at 1. You'll be at 9 by the end of the week, right? And then the real meal on Thursday.
No, I'm going to go away for Thanksgiving. Have a great time in football.
Where are you going?
I'm going to go to Temecula, wine country. I'm going to go wine country.
Fun.
And it's going to be great.
Sounds great.
I got friends visiting in town this week.
Right. And if Sheng-Yi steps out of line, we'll hook her up on a lie detector.
She wants hot pot. I said, no, Thanksgiving's Thanksgiving, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
No exceptions. All right. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode of One Degree of Scandalous with Kato Kalin. And I'm Tom Zenner. Thanks for watching.
Gobble, gobble.